Welcome to Deep Thought. Change comes from those who think outside the box. Change. I'm gonna tell you what, you gotta think outside the box, because one of the things with the box, it keeps people going in a certain direction. It keeps people thinking a certain way because that's the box. You have many forces in society that want to keep you in the box. That want to keep people thinking the same way. It could be spiritual, it could be political, it could be economic, you know? And like I always like using the economic example because people don't get too upset over that. People sometimes get upset. You talk about spirituality or politics, but when you talk about economics, people want you to keep buying certain products. You know, they don't want you to think outside the box and maybe get something that you could use or keep wearing, or some type of electronics that's going to last a little bit longer. You know? But then let's use that as an example. Let's say somebody comes up with a smartphone or something that people could use for years instead of having to get a new one every 2 years. Oh, that could really mess up something. That could disrupt something. Because all of a sudden people are thinking, oh, let me get this. But then, of course, that could become another box. But that's another conversation. But I'm going to tell you what. Change, people who change things, people who create trends that later become movements, you know, they got to think outside the box. They got to, that's the only way. Because otherwise, if you stuck in a box, you ain't creating any change. You know, change isn't coming about. You doing what's been done before. You know, you part of the herd. You still within those same boundaries. You know, you still within the same fence. How you changing anything? But see, the person changing, they'll step outside that boundary. They'll look at something different. Like many people, let's just be real. The majority of people think the same way. That's how the theys have control. They have control over you because they have you thinking the same way. They have you doing things the same way, you know? And they don't have to use weapons or anything like that. That's how it's always been. But then you get that one person, they think about something in a different way. They think, wait a minute, why don't we do something this way? Or why don't I question this? That's thinking outside the box. You start questioning things. You're like, wow, let me think about something different. Let me do something different. You know, that's outside the box. You're not following what someone else is doing. That's outside the box. But then, you know, sometimes if it gets large enough, sometimes the days try to co-opt it. And you know what, I was going to talk about that in another video, but that's something to be concerned with. And well, yeah, I might have to do another video on that sometime down the road. But to even get to that point, you got to think outside the box. You got some people who are outliers, you know, or, you know, they change agents. That's another term, a change agent, you know, a nexus. You know, they might say, well, we're going to do stuff differently. We're going to think about this differently. And then they create a change. If it starts with a small trend, then it becomes a movement. And indeed, usually what happens is first people might laugh at it. They might laugh at the change, you know, then they'll discuss the change, and then they'll adopt the change, and then you start all over again. But to even get to that point, you got to be outside the box. You got to be outside the herd, outside the fences. You can't follow it. It could be something, you know, and it could be anything. It could be wearing your clothes differently, you know? That's one thing, but see, you do have some forces that look at that, economic forces, clothing. They're like, oh, let's pay attention. Trust me. Sometimes they try to be ahead of that, but that's what you want to do. That's what you have to do. you know? And see, some change is necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have advanced as a species. We wouldn't have advanced. You know, it was change agents that came up with the inventions, who came up with different ways of doing stuff. Maybe a new political, economic, spiritual system. Change agents. And you need that. You need that. Because otherwise, people would be stuck. Because let's be real on something. Most people are followers. Most people will follow what's been done. They follow what's been done before. In fact, if you even say, why don't we do something differently? They will fight you hardest. They're just like, no, this is how it's always been done. But then they never question why it was been done. You know? They never question it. And they might do something different because it's easier or whatever, it's more convenient and ever, but you know, you need that. You need that. Because it was a change agent that probably said, hey, let's create this camera this way. Let's create a smartphone this way. You know? What if someone had said, whoever really created, we know who promoted it, but whoever created the smartphone and thought about it, what if they said, oh, no, I ain't going to do that. I ain't going to think outside the box or anything. Oh, we would have a totally different economy now. In fact, that's what's causing a lot of economic issues now. We got change. I mean, social media. How many people have made money off of social media? How many people are contacting each other? It's changed something. Like smartphones, I can think of one place that might still have like a phone booth. One place. And they haven't driven by there in years, so they might not have it there still. But that was a change. Everybody having their own phone, that was a change. That changed a whole lot. But somebody had to think outside the box. Because, you know, change could be, it's good in a lot of cases, it can be bad in some cases, it depends. Now, right now, I'm thinking in terms of the good change. You have to think outside the box. You have to go outside the box. You can't do what's been done. That's the only thing you're going to change. How you changing something if you thinking the same way that's been done for decades or for centuries or something? You're not changing anything. You staying in the box. As long as you're staying in the box, you're going to do stuff the same way over and over. But then if you think outside the box, you might have a different way of looking at something. Like everything, nothing has to be done the same way. It could be how to cook something. It could be how to dress. It could be like how to look at politics, how to look at spirituality. But whatever the case, you have to think outside the box. Some of you might be change agents. And it's no shame if you looking at something a different way, if you're thinking outside the box. I want y'all to think about that, all right? There's nothing wrong with going outside the box. We need people to do that. Like I said, some of y'all might be doing it. We need you to do that. That's how society, that's how humanity advances. You know? You may have a great invention in something. You might have something. You might have something equal of a smartphone. Look how far we've gotten with a smartphone. I'm just saying, all right? So anyway, something to think about, all right? Something to think about. So that's all I have for today. Y'all have a great weekend, and I'll get back with y'all next week. Peace and blessings.